Welcome to Love X Revenge, where untold stories of passion, pain, and destiny unfold in the wildest corners of the human heart. The wind howled across the dusty canyon as dusk bled into the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. Ethan Cole tightened his grip on the reins, his horse restless beneath him as if sensing the tension in the air. He had ridden for 3 days without proper rest, following faint tracks that led into Apache territory, a place most men avoided unless they had a death wish or a reason heavier than fear. Ethan had both. A distant sound broke through the silence, a cry. Soft, desperate, and trembling like a wounded bird. He froze. Another cry followed, this time clearer. Please, I don't want to belong to them, let me belong to you instead. Ethan's eyes narrowed as he turned his horse toward the sound. The voice wasn't strong. It was raw, cracked by fear and exhaustion. He dismounted quietly, his boots crunching over the dry earth as he moved between jagged rocks and sparse shrubs. And then he saw her. An Apache girl, no older than 19, knelt beside a large stone, her wrists loosely tied with a worn leather strip. Her long black hair was tangled, dust clinging to her skin and clothes. Tear tracks carved pale lines down her cheeks. Her eyes, dark, wide, and filled with terror, locked onto his the moment he stepped into view. For a second, neither of them spoke. She looked at him as if he were both salvation and danger. "You're not one of them," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan remained still, studying her carefully. "Who are you?" Her lips quivered. "My name is Tala." The leather binding her wrists was poorly tied, more symbolic than secure. She could have run, yet she hadn't. That alone told Ethan enough. She was more afraid of where she might go than where she was. "Who tied you?" he asked. She swallowed hard, glancing behind her toward the hills. "My tribe. They say I must be given to another clan leader as a bond. A trade, a belonging." Her voice cracked, and fresh tears spilled. "But I am not a gift. I am not a thing." The words hit Ethan harder than he expected. He had seen many forms of cruelty in his life, but something about the way she said belong made his chest tighten. "I ran," she continued, her breathing uneven. "They will come for me. If they find me alone," she shivered violently, "they will take me back." Ethan stepped closer, slowly, so she wouldn't panic. "And you think I'm safer?" Her eyes searched his face with fragile hope. "You are a stranger, but you looked at me like a person, not a possession." Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. Then she whispered the words again, softer this time, as if they cost her everything. "Please, I don't want to belong to them, let me belong to you instead." Ethan exhaled sharply. Belong. He had spent most of his life avoiding attachments. A lone rancher, known more for his silence than his kindness, he kept people at a distance. Belonging was a word he had buried years ago when he lost the only family he ever had. "I don't own people," he said finally. Tala shook her head quickly, tears falling faster. "Not like that, not as a slave, not as a trade, just as someone under your protection. Someone who is seen." Her voice broke completely. "I am tired of being something people decide for me." Ethan's jaw tightened. Behind them, the distant echo of horse hooves rolled across the canyon. Tala's head snapped toward the sound, her entire body stiffening in fear. "They're coming," she whispered, panic flooding her eyes. "They will not stop until they find me." Without another word, Ethan crouched and cut the leather binding her wrists with his knife. "Can you ride?" She blinked, surprised. "Yes." "Then get on the horse." Her hands trembled as she obeyed, climbing onto the saddle while Ethan mounted behind her. The hooves thundered across the dry ground as he steered away from the canyon path, taking a narrow trail only seasoned riders would notice. The wind whipped past them, carrying the faint sound of shouts in the distance. Tala clutched the saddle tightly, her breathing shallow. "Why are you helping me?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. Because she looked like someone who had already lost too much. Because her voice sounded like a cry he once ignored years ago. "Because you asked," he said simply. They rode until night swallowed the land. Eventually, Ethan guided the horse toward a hidden clearing near his remote cabin, far from any main trails. He helped her down carefully, noticing how her legs trembled when they touched the ground. Inside the cabin, a lantern cast a warm glow over the rough wooden walls. Tala stood near the doorway, hesitant, as if crossing the threshold might shatter the fragile safety she felt. "You can rest here," Ethan said, placing a blanket near the fireplace. "No one comes this far." She hesitated, then stepped inside slowly, her eyes scanning every corner. "This place, it is quiet," she murmured. "That's why I built it." For the first time since he found her, Tala allowed herself to sit. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly, though her eyes still held shadows of fear. After a long silence, she spoke again. "If they come, will you send me back?" Ethan looked straight at her. "No." Her lips parted in disbelief. "Why?" she asked. "Because no one should be forced to belong where they're afraid to breathe." The words settled into the room like a promise. Tala's tears returned, but this time they weren't only from fear. "You are different," she whispered. Days passed, and the tension slowly melted into something softer. Tala helped with small tasks around the cabin, her quiet presence filling the silence Ethan had grown used to. She laughed rarely, but when she did, it was gentle and surprising, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Yet the fear never fully left her eyes. One evening, as the sky burned orange, she stood beside Ethan outside the cabin. "They will come eventually," she said quietly. Ethan didn't deny it, "and when they do," she continued, her voice trembling, "I will not run again. I am tired of running." He turned to face her. "Then you won't run alone." Her eyes widened. "You would fight them?" she asked. "I would stand," he replied calmly. The sound of distant horses shattered the stillness. Tala's breath caught. "They're here." Figures emerged along the ridge, silhouettes against the fading light. Warriors. Determined. Unyielding. Tala's hands shook as she stepped closer to Ethan. "If they take me, do not let them see me beg." Ethan's gaze hardened. "They won't take you." The warriors approached, their leader stepping forward with authority. His voice was stern, commanding, and filled with expectation. "She belongs to our people. Return her." Tala's fingers clenched into fists. Ethan stepped slightly in front of her. "She chooses where she stays." The leader's expression darkened. "She is promised." "I am not promised," Tala suddenly cried, her voice breaking through the air like thunder. Tears streamed down her face, but she did not hide behind Ethan. "I am not a trade. I am not a belonging to be handed over." Silence followed. The leader studied her, then Ethan. "You would defy your tribe for a stranger?" he asked her. Tala's voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. "He did not claim me. He protected me. He saw me." She took a shaky step forward. "I do not want to belong to those who see me as an offering." Her next words were softer, directed only at Ethan, yet loud enough to carry in the wind. "Please, I don't want to belong to them, let me belong to you instead." Ethan's chest tightened, but this time, he understood her meaning completely. Not ownership, choice, not possession, safety. He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "She stays," he said firmly. The standoff stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then, unexpectedly, the leader's gaze softened slightly. He looked at Tala, truly looked, as if seeing her not as a duty, but as a person for the first time. "She chooses her path," he said at last, turning his horse away. One by one, the warriors followed, disappearing into the dusk. The silence that followed felt unreal. Tala collapsed to her knees, tears flowing freely, not of fear, but relief. "They're gone," she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her. "You're safe." She looked up at him, her eyes shining with something deeper than gratitude. "For the first time," she said softly, "I feel like I belong, not as something owned, but as someone allowed to exist." The wind moved gently through the clearing, no longer harsh, no longer threatening. Ethan helped her to her feet, and for the first time since they met, she smiled without fear. And in that quiet moment, beneath the fading light of the wild sky, belonging was no longer a chain. It was a choice.